submitted last year. They don't all look this good, so these are the two good examples. The students get quite creative because I asked them to write it in a sort of popular education format. Many of them take that to heart, and it's amazing what you can do in Word these days. These are both Word documents. So this is the kind of thing I get. It's only 6 pages long. Usually what they do is they split up the ingredient list, and each student has the responsibility for researching that ingredient, coming up with some interesting information about that ingredient, and then they put it together into this kind of format. So it's been quite successful, other than the group issue, which I'm sure you all deal with as well. But in terms of the actual finished product, it's been quite a successful exercise. Okay, next slide. I just wanted to, I've mentioned this already, I just want to talk a little bit about both the grade 12 chem equivalent and the chemistry today. They're both distance education courses, as I've said, and I've talked a little bit about ways to engage your students, and pretty much the most important thing with an online course is that they know that you're there, and that you're there to help them. I've become quite skilled at explaining chemistry problems in emails, and in fact what I do now is I just keep a bank of my explanations, and because every year it's usually the same problems, and I just pull them out again. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about these new homework websites. Are you familiar with these things now? This is the only one that I know anything about, although there are many of them, so I just thought I'd talk to you a little bit about that. Cengage, which is I don't exactly know how the corporate structure works, but it seems to be part of Brooks Cole Publishing. They have a homework site now, OWL Homework. You pay for it, so the students pay for the textbook, and they pay a little bit extra to get access to this OWL Homework site. There are others, not just OWL, but I'm just going to talk about OWL. I started using these in the distance education format 2 years ago. This past year I used them quite heavily, so they actually had to do the homework. They got graded on homework, but it wasn't, they had up to 7 attempts to complete the homework, so I wasn't really grading on did they get it right the first time. I was grading them on did you do the homework. Because I don't know about you, the biggest problem in chemistry for most of my students is they don't do the problem sets, right? And if you don't do the problem sets, you will never succeed in chemistry, right? It's the same with math and physics and any of those subjects. So anyway, now I use this OWL Homework, and just next slide, I just did a print screen. It's not great, sorry, I was just doing this late last night, but I just did a print screen of a couple of the exercises. So they have all kinds of things. They have tutorials, they have visualizations. So this one over here is actually the crushed can experiment. You know, we heat up the can and you stick in the cold water in the can. Collapses. So a little video, so the students get to watch a little video, and then they answer a bunch of questions. There are a bunch of tutorials, and then there are little kind of mini quizzes that they take. And those are what I made required for the students. They have to complete those so that I knew that they had gone through some of these exercises. So I found that to be fairly useful for many of the students. The problem this past year is it really wasn't worth a lot. Because I didn't really know much about it. I didn't want to make it worth too much in case it became a huge headache for me. So it wasn't worth a lot. So a lot of students opted not to do it, or just do a few. So I think in subsequent years I'll increase the value of these. But I just thought you might want to know there are lots of these sites. There's another one that I haven't actually looked at yet, but somebody sent to me the other day, that you can purchase fairly reasonably separate from a textbook. It's its own homework site. This is very much connected to the textbook that you're using. But anyway, just thought I'd mention that. So next slide. So Jason also asked me to talk a little bit about my impressions of first-year students. I'm not sure I have anything terribly original to say here. What I find in these fundamentals courses, I think if you talk to first-year physics and first-year biology, you'll find the same thing, is that student preparation is quite variable. It really depends what high school the student is coming from and what personal experience, I have a 21-year-old stepson. When he went to, he's doing math at University of Ottawa. In his first year at Ottawa, he said to me, he took chemistry, and he said, it's completely reviewed. It's everything I took in grade 12 chem. So he breezed through. Now, he also is good at math, which helps him to breeze through. That'll get to that in another point. But it really seems to be quite variable, the student preparation. I think the strengths of first-year students today, and this may also be a weakness, but strengths is they seem to be quite confident in what they know. And the other thing, and again, there's a bad side to this, is there's a real willingness to ask for help, which I just remember myself as a first-year student. I don't think I would have gone up to any of my professors and asked for help, and there is a willingness to ask for help. Unfortunately, that is coupled with email. And what I'm finding, I think what most of us are finding now, is that most students ask for help before they actually think about what it is they're asking.
Yes.
Because it's easy, right?
Yes.
Email has really made that a serious problem. So sometimes I get the stupidest questions, which I think, and I don't mean stupid, like, I get that chemistry is a difficult concept like this for some people, but I think as they're hitting send, they're probably figuring out the answer to the question that they've asked. So it's just too easy. But they are definitely willing to come and get the help they need. The weaknesses for students in first year chem, I think that really the number one weakness is math. And I'm not talking, we don't do any difficult math at the first year chem lab. There's no calculus, right? What we're talking about is basic algebra. Can you solve for X? That's all we're doing. And dimensional analysis, essentially unit conversions. I'm sure you started with the same thing. It's a really serious problem. I spend a lot of my time explaining how you go from mass to moles, from kilograms to mole. It's an incredible amount of time I spend on it. So I'm not sure why that's a problem, but it seems to be a real problem. Problem-solving skills, that sort of goes back a little bit to the math. And I'm sure, I know you all deal with this too. What am I given? What am I being asked to solve? And how do I get there? And a lot of times that's dimensional analysis. This is the units I'm given. These are the units I need at the end. How do I go from one unit to the other? So those two things I think are probably the number one problem with the students in first year chem. Fear and loathing of chemistry, definitely a big issue for most of the students. I'm not sure exactly where they get that, and I try with my enthusiasm to tell them that it's really important. Chemistry is really important. And I'm more successful again in second year, because in second year in my soil science class, I can say to them, this is why we taught you about equilibrium chemistry, because we need it now to figure out the soil development, soil weathering reactions. We need to understand that. So I'm more successful later than I am in the first year course itself. And then, of course, in a first-year class, you're also dealing with the issues that all first-year students have in general, maturity issues, and of course, we're dealing with younger students now, so all of us have found that to be a challenge, and time management skills, and especially in these fundamentals courses where you really need to set aside some amount of time every week to do the problem sets. That becomes a really big issue. So I think that's all. Is there another slide? I don't think there's it. That's all I really have to say. If you want me to talk about the other course as well, I can, or just ask me some questions. So thank you.
I have two children in university, and one of them has taken a lot of online courses at Bolton, actually, and I have a concern about integrity of online courses when it comes to the testing part.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a big problem. I don't know what the answer is. So for both my chemistry courses, I have, for one I have 8 quizzes, the other have 5 quizzes, and then there's a midterm.